and check out that blingy bling coming to you from your favorite comic book channel. They actually went on tour, you believe it? Beginning in Wildcats 6, continuing in Cyber Force 2, Beyond Love and Hate, Beyond Man and Machine. The very first ever Homage Studios crossover. Very first ever Homage. It says it right here. First crossover. And we got Jean Grey over here looking hot. This is what this channel's all about. Let's review the issues of the mini. We have Killer Instinct, Chapter 1, Wildcats Covert Action Team, Issue 6, Part 1. Part 2, Cyber Force, Killer Instinct, Part 2. Then we're back to Wildcats, Covert Action Team, Part 3. This is my absolute favorite cover of all 4 issues. This is a incredible cover. The pink and the yellow, the coloring, oh my god, it just works. And then we get Killer Instinct, Cyber Force, Part 4, the end. And we have Misery here. And then this is the crossover. Warblade, oh my god, what did they do to Ripclaw? This is also, just take note, this is also one of the most overused 90s faces in the entire era. This face is used and ripped off and hacked by, oh my god, endless books and panels have used this exact face. But then that's her babe, that's Misery. And what a insane design she is. I don't know why. She's weird, it's eclectic, it doesn't make sense, but it is fun to look at. One might say Misery's design is perfect. AKA Patters, holy crap. So hey, welcome to my morning. Welcome to Top Cow Tuesday, Killer Instinct Day. As you can see, I've been pulling out my hair. A sign of simpler times. And what exactly am I discussing? So we have the Top Cow tour book here. This is Top Cow and Jim Lee's WILDSTORM Productions. The two companies get together and they go on tour. They literally travel. They travel all around the country promoting themselves, their new discovered talent, and this very cool, very amazing crossover. And why am I pulling out my hair? Because a lot of what we're going to get into, it just upsets me. Let me take a second. It just upsets me. And why does it upset me? Because it's truly a sign of simpler times. There was something. There was a friendship. There was a camaraderie between MARC SILVESTRI and Jim Lee. When it comes to the founders of Image Comics, we also have to put in Wells Portacio that falls into the Jim Lee ranks. And then something happens along the way. Their combined studio, Homage Studios, transitions into WILDSTORM Productions for Jim Lee, and then Ballistic Studios for MARC SILVESTRI, later becoming Top Cow Productions. So in a short period of time, our boy, the illustrator of illustrators, the greatest of his generation, MARC SILVESTRI, goes from top tier Marvel talent, founding Image Comics, founding Homage Comics, founding Ballistic Studios, founding Top Cow Productions, all in a short time span. And then it's never spoken about again. So there was a deep financial friendship. I mean, you hang together in the same studio and you make comic books. You get you know what? Hold up. Wait, I need a hat. We get the Amon Amarth hat. Okay? Boom. But you get close when 2 adults, when 3 adults, when 4 adults, when 5 adults get together to make comics. Comic book production is obsessive. and it's depressing. It's equally depressing as it is obsessive. These individuals are at the top of the industry, at the highest form of their game, and they're friends. We have to assume that Jim Lee and Marc Silvestri are friends. Now, in all of the commentary, interviews, backs and forths, postmodern interviews, there's been a couple founding of Image Comics YouTube documentaries. There's been official DVD Image Comics documentaries. There's been a book here and there. But there's been a lot of interviews. Like Jim Lee's done a ton of interviews. Marc Silvestri hasn't. But if we go through all of the interviews from 1993 on, for example, this is not discussed. It's not pressured. It's not like dug through. And why? Why don't we care about what ended the relationship? Now, Marc Silvestri has been on record, and saying that, you know, like the company was growing and we just couldn't keep up with it and we had to part our ways. I don't know. I mean, if you read enough business biographies like this guy here, everyone says that that's just a line. But there's no explanation. There's no curiosity. What I feel like I'm the only one on this hill. Like, I'm the only one truly curious about what happened between Jim Lee and Marc Silvestri post Killer Instinct. So this crossover here, two giant books, two up and coming comic book studios, two studios on top of the industry. This is their first and last collaboration, and it's a good one. It feels like a Marvel comic. It interacts like a Marvel comic. And I guess this is the second part of me just pulling out my hair. If you go through the commentary of this book, if you literally scroll through and start hitting on videos, this crossover is just crapped on. And I'm getting sick and tired on this channel in reminding people that I'm reminding them that these are good books, that they're fun reads, that if you were who they were targeted for, a teenager, I mean, I'm still, whoever, cheers to never growing up, aka Patters. We don't grow up. We don't. But these books are targeted to teenage boys who are also playing sports, because a lot of comic shops, and almost every single big comic shop during this time, was part sports store. Another part of the commentary we really don't hear. It was part sports shop, aka Patters. Do you guys appreciate not seeing me? I don't really care. Good morning, Philadelphia. Yeah, so the kids were aggressive, the kids played sports, and the kids bought trading card packs during what is now titled the junk pack era. But they bought some comics, and a few of them read them. The other stark reality. But as an adult, right? If legally we can call ourselves that, but as an adult, we can appreciate what happens inside of these pages. And it's fun. It's escapism. It's a fantasy. It's a big idea. But we have a plot, we have characters, we have revelations, and we have payoffs. A lot of Killer Instinct has been set up for a few months now on the Top Cow end. Top Cow makes more of the capital investment with the Killer Instinct characters. One might say Killer Instinct is a Top Cow crossover with the character Misery. That's this babe here. See her nice booty? There's nothing misery about that booty. So, let's get into it. we're going to attack. We're going to first look at the Killer Instinct tour book. And then we're going to get into the incentives. Right. Because retailers who hosted the tour ordered a certain amount of the copies. I don't know what the ordering threshold was for some of these incentive covers. I would only imagine 5,000 or 6,000. But, right? But, we're going to get into the guts of the story. And I believe in a way that I have yet to explore here on YouTube, or the interwebs that always disappoints us when it comes to 90s comics. Alright, doesn't this just look beautiful? This is my layout right here. We have the Killer Instinct Cyber Force Wildcats embossed dealer or store incentive copies. We have the crossover mini right here. Thank God it's only 4 parts. But then we get this beautiful tour book. And it is beautiful. Nothing on the back. Usually I'm against nothing on the back, right? Because we want to use our real estate. But no. This sends a message. This is one beautiful big idea. How depressing is this? The title pages or the inside covers are absolutely amazing in this era. But see the cute Homage Studios logo? Look, see, it kind of, right? It runs along the border here. Such a cute logo. While I was reading these issues, because, you know, like, I kept seeing it. See, here's a yellow one. Then part 3, Wildcat 7. We have a beautiful blue one. Homage. Homage. MARC Silvestri and Jim Lee. And can we cut to it? Because I had a freaking existential crisis reading this for that reason. Roll tape. Roll the tape. Let me squeeze in here, aka Powders. We're up to random updates now as I'm going through the process. Wildcats 7, Part 3 of Killer Instinct. I had to run out to grab some fruit. So if you guys want to know what fuels the AKAPad army throughout the business day, it's salmon. This one's perfectly priced at $7.69, but we got some salmon, we got some rice. That's what we eat, folks. So this is like messing me up because the more I read this and the more I think about, look, the Killer Instinct tour, okay? The more I think about this, it does change my opinion on Jim Lee. Now, I don't agree with every single take, or do I feel like it's all honest of Rob Liefeld's podcast, Robservations, right? I'm openly critical on Robservations, and yes, the rumors are true. I will unleash the hounds of hell on Robservations, upcoming episodes. During one of his episodes, he details his relationship with Jim Lee. Not targeting Jim Lee, just really going through the history of what he knows of the business practice of the two of them, right? So he's giving us some anecdotes around the Heroes Reborn timeline. Now, previously, we highlighted Rob Liefeld's creations, Youngblood, in the pages of Wildcats, this book, just a couple issues ago. Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee seem to have a copacetic relationship. Now, we fast forward a few years, and they collectively, Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee, you guys all know this, right? They leave Image Comics. They go to Marvel, and they reboot Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Avengers, and Captain America. Respectfully, the best-selling titles or issues of all of those titles. And then Rob's gone and Jim's in. Rob was gone so fast that when Marvel approached Rob Liefeld about Heroes Reborn, they said, look, we're being bought out, that we're being a part of a merger. We have to lower your rates. And Rob's like, I can't. I can't lower my rates because I promised money to a lot of my guys. Somewhat commendable. I don't know how truthful that is, since he's the only one with that account. But then Marvel says, look, Jim Lee's ready to take everything over at the price we just gave you. We were giving you an opportunity to turn it down. Fair business practice. And Jim Lee takes over all of Heroes Reborn, running to 13 issues. And later, Jim Lee crosses over Marvel with Wildstorm Productions. This is also echoed in the Marvel Wildstorm Productions trading card set. We feature that on this very channel too. And then, Jim Lee goes on, does not become EIC of Marvel. This was Jim Lee's big play. So Jim Lee, in effect, drove sales, drove attention, drove all of these things, but he pretty much uses Rob Liefeld as a patsy. This commentary is not common, but Jim Lee owns Rob Liefeld. Now, the Marvel Wildstorm Productions deal does not happen. Rob Liefeld recounts this. He says it was killed in a 0 hour. I agree, probably. But then Jim Lee, and at this point in massive debt through the Gen 13 animated movie, also featured on this channel, he needs to sell to regain what he owes in debt. So, lo and behold, DC Comics does two things. They hire Jim Lee as a lifelong full-time employee. They give him an executive position. They acquire the debt. They pay it off, right? Or accounting-wise, that gets rolled into the books. And I think it can get written off depending on how well we maintain our books. They get the Wildstorm characters, and Jim Lee has, to this day, yet to leave DC Comics. He becomes embedded in DC Comics, and to me, it's Jim Lee's lofty goals to become a part of the executive order of not DC Comics, but Warner Brothers, the owner, or Warner Brothers Discovery. So, knowing how Jim Lee treated Rob Liefeld and used them, it really makes me think, did Jim Lee beat up and use up MARC Silvestri? Did Jim Lee make his own patsy out of MARC Silvestri? Did he use MARC Silvestri's resources to grow the profile of Wildstorm Productions, or what would become Wildstorm Productions, crossing over talent, crossing over, again, benefits of sharing office space, to later excommunicate MARC Silvestri, or, give him an ultimatum, and MARC Silvestri had to break off and do his own thing, and Jim Lee at that point continued. And we want to say, up until Witchblade, Jim Lee won that arrangement. They were able to get Gen 13. A lot of their other books were rocking and rolling. Later, they were to bring in Alan Moore. The Witchblade pop for Top Cow changed the entire company, and even to this day, Witchblade is, Top Cow is considered a Witchblade company, not a Cyber Force company. But that's why on this channel we're separating the two. We're doing pre-Cyber Force and post-Cyber Force Top Cow Tuesdays. But yeah, man, it's just messing me up. And I want to say, this episode is becoming more of this dissection of how these two individuals can be so close, and I swear to God, living together, working together. That's what it's like making comic books together. It's almost just like an orgy. It's an orgy where you have no free time. So you get very close. You get close so effing quick. And to have zero commentary, zero anything coming from Jim Lee, coming from MARC Silvestri, and Shane, take that middle finger to any journalists or anyone that had access to those two individuals that have done a DVD, a movie, a documentary, or a book, and you don't press this issue. It's beyond me, because just baseline curiosity. Just baseline curiosity. You know, like, there's some hard questions in there. I don't think we'll ever get the answers to. Anyway, I gotta eat some lunch and finish reading some comics. Hey, Patters, alright, we're not quite yet to the drawing table, but a whole day went by. A lot of what you have seen already, I shot on the Tuesday for Top Cow Tuesday. We're now in Wildstorm Wednesday, and the reason, well, hold up, guys. I'm still wearing my Hard Rock Cafe Washington, D.C. shirt, and, oh my, no hat. Give me a second. I have to be able to show you guys I'm in another day. Okay, well, here, we got the Hard Rock room and a Philadelphia Eagles hat. Another day, another trial, another tribulation of reading, come on, 90s American comics, the greatest comic book era of all time. So, let's just, I had to put that down real quick. So, Wildcats 5 is a prologue. There's 2 prologue issues that lead into Killer Instinct. Wildcats 5, which is a continuation of Wildcats 1 through 4, the initial series, miniseries launch. Jim Lee goes from 1 through 4 to 5. MARC Silvestri goes from 1 through 4 back to 1. So Cyber Force number 1 is Killer Instinct Prologue Part 2-ish. Now, reading this, I was back and forth on even featuring this in this video. And the reason is, I consider this, and guys, we all know I have superior opinion. I came and said, look, this is what I consider to be Jim Lee's absolute prime artwork in the history of his career. I wanted to showcase this separately on Wildstorm Wednesday, because we just went through Wildcats 1 through 4, and I wanted to show, really, like, he one-upped himself in a mind-blowing way. And if you're not familiar with Wildcats 5, I wanted to reveal it all to you guys. But now, because of Killer Instinct, what am I doing? I feel like I'm just, like, busting my nut here too early. So here's what we're going to do. When we hit that drawing table, I'm going to showcase the nature of the Wildcats prologue to Killer Instinct and the nature of the Cyber Force prologue into Killer Instinct. Why am I breaking it down that way? It's very easy. Both of those prologues have different intents when it comes to the surrounding story, and even the guts of the crossover of the story. It's only 4 issues, but there's a lot there. Each of those titles carry over what the prologue has. For example, Grifter is narrating Wildcats 5. Grifter narrates Killer Instincts parts 2 and 5. 2 and 4. 2 and 4. Is it 2 and 4? Yes, 2 and 4. Well, anyway, we'll talk about some of that at the drawing table, and then when I showcase Wildcats 5, we're going to go with the LTE. We're going to go Bud Light on this, meaning I'm just going to show you a couple of the story points that lead directly into Killer Instinct Part 1. AKA Patters, it's showtime. Welcome to Killer Instinct. We gotta adjust that camera. Cheers to all of you. So look at some of my cream. My cream has curdled in my iced mugged coffee. Get yourself a crib. Do not trust any other comic book commentator if they do not have a Crypt action figure at their drawing table. And only trust comic book commentators that have a drawing table. Look at this stack. Killer Instinct originally started as 4 issues. It was a 4-issue review. Roughly, I know that can take up to 45 to 1 hour of recording time. Killer Instinct has been an existential experience. I thought I would organize some of this. So you guys can, I think me organizing this will lay it out. So we have the prologue right here. Prologue here. What happens immediately after here. What happens before the prologue here. Now, I had to dig these up because I'm not familiar with if Misery falls on the Wildstorm side or the Top Cow side at the time. Why do we need codename Strike Force 3 and 6? And Stormwatch 1 and Strike Force 1? We're going to get into that. Cyber Force, codename Strike Force, opposing forces. Forces. If you don't have 3 forces in your title, you're not trying. Oh, this is one of my all-time favorite covers anyway of the era of Top Cow. Those go over here. I just wanted to show this off when we discuss Wildcats 5 because this is my inspiration for Wildstorm Wednesdays. Death Mate Black, that goes over here. Here we go. Killer Instinct 3, 7. So we have part 3, part 4, part 2, and part 1. This is how it all started. Now, we have prologue of the prologue over here with Cyber Force 0. Prologue Top Cow side right here. Killer Instinct Tour Edition over here. The bling and the bling over there. And then we have the original, guys, just stay with me because you know I love this title. The 10 Men of War. I wanted to show off a little bit of... I was 50-50. When we get into these issues, should I use the incentive ones? I think I have 2 of each. But that's roughly a... This is a Killer Instinct stack. Now, a lot of people do not roll in the prologue issues. But now this is your Killer Instinct stack. Everything else here, we are going to put to the side. So a lot of Killer Instinct, a lot of this crossover of Top Cow and Wildstorm involves this character, Misery. Now, Misery, this is 96. Killer Instinct, let's just go to part 1, 96, right? We have 93. So by this point, MARC SILVESTRI and Jim Lee broke up. Now, when I was researching Misery, I went through these, right? And Top Cow has one too. I only have issue 2 of the Top Cow source book, but Misery's not in here. So Misery falls on the Top Cow side. In the indicia for some of these, like for example, Cyber Force, I tried to find Misery as a character listed, but she's not in the indicia, which is particular. But no Misery in any of these Top Cow source books. One note about these source books, one cool note, okay, is that all the houses, you had like the Top Cow side, the Jim Lee side, and the Rob Liefeld side. Extreme Studios, Wildstorm Productions, Top Cow Productions. They were so heavy and so fast with the rollout of their teams. They were able to fill and kind of have the need of source books. And the teams of heroes would go up against teams of villains, and then so on and so forth. You can get 100 characters in a very short amount of time when you're a team-driven universe. And people just like new characters, so teams work. So let's just put those to the side. So Misery shows up three years later in Cyber Force 24. And she kind of still has the same gimmick with Ripclaw. There's no revelation here other than she's not dead and he's not dead. And we get this expansion of this deep relationship. Now, a part of Killer Instinct is we go forwards and backwards. So part of going backwards is we have to get into Cyber Force Zero again. Can this book escape me? Just for 1 second. Misery's not even on the cover. Just Walt Simonson cover. But what is on the cover is this chip. And this chip is a major plot point in Killer Instinct. This chip gets implanted, except for these guys. Killjoy, Psychotron, Buzzsaw, everyone's head, okay? And the evil people of Cyberdata create cybernetic soldiers, but they put the chips in their heads and they control them. And now all the good guys slowly lose the chips and they become good guys. The evil guys have the chips and they're bad. So in here we have, and can we just get to the hotness? Where is our girl? We get a little bit of Warblade in here, and we get Misery right here. Now, they added a bit of history to Misery. That just rhymed. Let me get to it. Let me just show off real quick. See, we get Misery, yellow and green. Misery, we'll say the modern day Misery, yellow and red. Misery, in my view, is an analog. She's an analog for Jean Grey. She mind controls multiple individuals. And in this Killer Instinct preview page here, in our prologue, she's mind controlling Warblade and she's mind controlling Ripclaw. And you might want to say, character wise, like everyone's on to what this girl's do. Like now, like they know her power, but they constantly are underestimating the true reach of her power. She is, in a big effect, a totally evil Jean Grey. Without the she's not psychokinetic. She's psychokinetic would be like Firestarter from Stephen King. Like you can push things, right? She's not quite that. She can just go into your mind, give you a suggestion. So in the prologue, yeah, we get like a little bit of this history. We get a little bit of the original Cyber Force members. They're teaming up with Misery. They're teaming up with Warblade, but they're all together and they're called Shocks. And the Shocks are Cyber Data's super soldiers. And the Shocks really kind of, again, like shock and all type things. See, like these are the Shock. This is Cyber Force. These are the modern day Shocks. Deprogrammed, programmed. And it's a cool scenario. You know, like we track the chip here. We live exposition on how the chip works in Cyber Force Zero. And then we get the original team and how Warblade breaks off of the team, joins Wildcats, and then we have Misery that kind of, she disappears too. And that's a little bit of the backstory in Killer Instinct. Get rid of this. David Finch, by the way. Big shout out to David Finch. Cheers to Finch Daddy. So I mentioned before that we have two separate approaches with the prologues. One of these prologues and the issues. So Wildcats 5, 6, and 7. Wildcats 5, 6, and 7 with the prologue. Now, we get out of the Wildcats miniseries right here. 5, like, we kind of go from Wildcats 4, okay, where the team, Dane Quayle and the Demon Knights, and Voodoo is growing her powers. We'll see some of that. But, you know, it's basically Wildcats versus Youngblood teaming up to fight the Demon Knights here and here. But, you know, they kind of escape with, with just their fumbling and bumbling. This is also portrayed in Killer Instinct. But we get a really nice transition here. Like, don't these pages right here work together so well? Like the end of one adventure and the beginning of the next. This is a lot of the, during this day, everyone creating these books loved Indiana Jones. And Indiana Jones, the opening sequences are the end of one adventure and the beginning of the next. Also a scenario that they borrowed from James Bond. So, the Wildcat side of Killer Instinct is the story from like the adventure point of view with narration by Grifter as established in Wildcats 5. The Cyber Force involvement, right here. The Cyber Force involvement of Killer Instinct. And let's just get into part 2. Is the history of the characters. It's the history of Misery, Ripclaw, and Warblade. This is evident in the prologue, where a lot of the prologue is it's astral. It's dream sequences. It's flashbacks. Like, let's just... I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, if you guys enjoy just looking at these pages as much as me, I can just flip through them all day. But yeah, like flashback, but kind of like a dream. You know, Ripclaw snaps awake a couple times during this. But we kind of get these dream sequences. Okay? So, the way how Cyber Force tells the story goes backwards, and Wildcats tells the story linear. With all of that said, we can kind of get into... Now, we're going to get into this, but just to preview what's coming. We're going to get into... I'm going to crack this open for all of you. We're going to get into the Killer Instinct tour, and then we're all going to sit down and watch a whole news presentation, a whole show about the tour from back in the 90s. Got some spittle there. Wildcats 5. Now, while Cyber Force 1, the original, the original prologue, let's just say it teases via dreams, okay? Like, it just sets up that the three of them are linked, okay? But what is the adventure? Now, this is what I consider to be the Lord Jim Lee. This guy right here. This guy. Okay? Jim Lee. Jim Lee. This is his greatest work of this time, of all time. I'm going to preview this because on our next episode, what follows after this for Wildstorm Wednesday will be a full analysis on Wildcats Covert Action Teams 5. But he does this. You guys see? And then this happens, okay? And he does that, look, and it even goes this way, okay? He does that two times. He bookends issue 5 with two giant, like here, we can get rid of that. Tuck in the sky caps. Right here, guys. You see it? You see it flopping? You see it flopping? Giant gatefold here, giant gatefold here. So much so that there's maybe one ad in the entire book, and And the letter section, Call of the Wild, gotta give it to him. Yeah, it's only on the back cover. So, we just have to get into Misery here. So, Misery, Jim Lee, everyone. Misery is Riker. Riker is like a Baron von the Hydra guy, Baron von Stryker, but his name's Riker. He's even got the eyepiece. Here's what he's doing, and I love the plot point. We know from Wildcats that the Demonites can possess individuals. They could possess Crypt. A Demonite alien can get inside a Crypt. And then we won't know. And Voodoo over here, our girl, who are you, Voodoo? Right here. Voodoo has the power to exercise what's inside of these guys. And she can pull them out. She's a former stripper. We give her credit right here. Stripper superhero. And her stripper outfit becomes her superhero outfit. So, I don't know, comics. But she exercises Richter. And she pulls out the Demonite. And Spartan here just nukes him. Nukes him. So, the Wildcats got, tipped off, right? They were, hunting for this guy. And the reason why they were hunting for him, because he has a good plan. Guys, here. Brandon Chow, Jim Lee. Okay? Story. Wow. Look, Jim Lee, Brandon Chow, co-creators. You might want to say they have a good story here. I know, right? I'm sure your dog's howling at the ceiling. Here's the plot. This evil scientist guy wants to create synthetic beings, synthetic robots, or replicants, if we're watching Blade Runner, to host a infinitely available Demonite army. And the Wildcats here, Grifter, jumping by, a little bit of a couple phoned in panels here. Sorry, Jim Lee. But the Wildcats are like, no. And Grifter here sees the technology as soon as he gets into the lab. He's like, where did they get this technology? So we get a little bit of this back and forth, and Jacob Marlowe, who is, we open up Wildcats with Jacob. But Jacob kind of has a little bit of this assorted past. He has a history. The history goes way back, and he's not quite a Nick Fury character. Or the WILDSTORM Nick Fury character is Lynch. We later see him in Gen 13. But Marlowe has a 30-year history of covertly and overtly fighting this war. So Grifter he's not happy, and he doesn't trust Jacob. He's like, yeah, we're not being told everything. Misery shows up. They go back and forth. The demon gets exercised. Now, here's the cool thing with Wildcats. You might want to say, the Wildcats can just appear. And they can just appear like a snap almost anywhere because of Void. This creates some storytelling problems because we don't quite get, it's a little too sudden. This happens all the time with Wildcats. It's a perfect scenario for having the team appear out of nowhere at any available time. They use it and it works. But they fight Misery, and we learned that Misery is, she's commendable. This girl can fight. And what happens with the lab? We'll just reveal here. Well, they blow up the lab while... Look at this. Oh my God. Jim Lee. Jim Lee! What are you doing, Jim Lee? What are you... Oh my... I'm just going to walk away. just so you guys can have a look. Warblade and Misery are going at it. We know they have a history, and we know that they used to bang, and we know that they used to be in love. Misery, though, she's with our Doctor Boy at this point. She's with him. She's loyal to him, but they need this capsule now. This capsule that has the synthetic stuff, this is synthetic DNA that Grifter is convinced there's, there's some going ons. So that's our plot, and welcome to the Killer Instinct crossover, where Misery, in search of this synthetic material to breed a giant demonite army, is going to pit Ripclaw and her former love, Warblade, against one another. And she's going to play the victim. She's an evil Jean Grey. And she's going to bring in Cyber Force. And she's going to bring in the covert action team's Wildcats. Yeah, so we are going to get into part one. So part one, and I'm getting a little bit mixed up. Part one here, Wildcats. So, and I apologize. I think I said earlier that it started with Cyber Force. So part one is, now this is great. This is great if you haven't been reading Wildcats and you go to the tour and you buy this, because all the guys, right, here's all the tour dates. And you go to one of these shops and you buy this, and you go home and you sit down and you just start reading it. It's awesome because it picks up right where issue 5 left off. And the lab is blowing up. Warblade's missing. By the way, guys, I believe that this issue right here, Jim Lee pencils, yeah. There's a lot of questions when we go into this. This might be future analysis, because there's a lot of questions on who drew this issue and how much of Jim Lee is in this issue. I think this issue is a studio effort, and given Jim Lee has given us 5 straight banger issues of Wildcats, he probably deserved the break. Cheers to Jim Lee taking a break. And what am I talking about here? Well, we have like a Scott Clark Zealot face here. We have a uncharacteristic. Let me grab my toothbrush of truth. If you look at my toothbrush of truth, open. I'll scrub you. I'll scrub you with this toothbrush of truth. Look at that. Look at that hair. We have Voodoo, and we have an uncharacteristic elastic arm. This to me looks like a kind of like a Brick Booth arm, kinda. This is clearly a Scott Clark face. Scott Clark's, he's our boy from Stormwatch. And we turn the page and we get like another Scott Clark face. Some nice Scott Clark shadows, some nice Scott Clark hair. I'm sure a lot of you think I'm crazy. Well, to further that, when Jim Lee, who is the best poser, remember, MARC SILVESTRI hasn't ascended yet, but Jim Lee's still the guy. He's the best poser in comics. Like, the poses. You guys know what I mean? Like, the poses. Like, the poses. He can pose. So, keep in mind, too, side note, they're above Genosha here. And Genosha also has, maybe like over here on the landscape, Stormwatch is dealing with something. So Stormwatch is in the area. They're now coming on Stormwatch's radar because Weatherman from his little tower over here is looking down more or less later. So we get this landscape where Killer Instinct begins, where a Stormwatch adventure is already happening. Back to the poses, though, because I got my toothbrush of truth here. See, we have this nice, convenient Jim Lee pose here, right? We call that a Jim Lee posterized. We get something very similar here. We just include the back leg and the back foot. And we get something very similar here. So the 2 pages, we have Maul falling. And it's 1, 2, 3. They're almost all the same poses. Grifter and Zealot are, they do something cool. They kind of dive onto one of the flying ships that try to attack the Wildcats, and the Wildcats escape. But Maul does something great here. He goes supersize and completely, this is Maul like the size of a building. Double fist hammering through one of these ships. It's one of Maul's best moments like ever. But then Grifter and Zealot, because they have cute banter here, again, very Indiana Jones. But they land on the ship and they get inside, and Grifter blasts away, and he not only kills the pilots, he blows up the controls. And you mean you damage the ship's flight controls? And so which move is going to save us this time? I mean, the banter is great. It's great. And you'll be like, Pete, what are we talking about these poses? Well, you just saw we had multiple again, like 1. Am I just being too picky? So 2, and here's another one. Here's 4. Here's Grifter right here. 4. I thought there was another one. So part of what I'm getting at is this is people helping Jim Lee working from layouts. Some of these, like this pose here, that's all Jim Lee. You can pinpoint it when you have an eye for what it takes to put it on the page. It gives you a little bit of more insight. Zealot here, not exactly there. And also what happens is we get kind of like the camera doesn't pull away as much in this issue. We get a lot of kind of what I would call like eye level twin shots. What's a twin shot? Okay, here let's get back to Crypt. A twin shot eye level would be this, right? And let's put Crypt there. So we're eye level, and the twin shot would be this. Okay, see, we can split Crypt. We can split them. It's a twin shot, and it's also eye level. This type of storytelling is really what people hated about this era. But everyone gets saved, and we're kind of in a chunk of the issue. We're in the chunk of the issue, and we kind of just saw Misery one time when Grifter and Zealot get back into the lab. So they blow up the lab, but then they kind of fall back into the lab, and they're like, that girl, look, that's Richolf's bodyguard, Misery, and she's got Warblade. Warblade's right there, knocked out. So you came back to save your fallen comrade. Your loyalty is admirable, but your timing stinks. This isn't true, because all the dialogue here is they're getting out of there, and they don't know if Warblade's living or dead. And I guess because they got shot down, they look commendable. But yeah, they go back and forth, and this is some of Misery's suggestions. If you want him alive, you better back off. It's time to make an exit. And then we have this, the rest of the Wildcats team not yet in the lab in the snow. And very little of this is drawn by Jim Lee. I really have no idea. I believe this was a pinup. That ended up in this issue for whatever reason. And you'd be like, Pete, what are you talking about? This looks like Jim Lee. Well, I don't know. This arm is off. Zealot's pose here is off. Another Scott Clark face right here. That's a Jim Lee Maul. Give it to him. Maul's fist, not quite there. Jim Lee poses Maul as well as Silvestri poses Impact. This issue's kind of frustrating, but we get this whole flashback. We get this flashback. narrated by our boy Spartan. And look at Spartan, fantastic, great silhouette here. So it's like, again, the Jim Lee storytelling comes through. She wasn't a pretty sight. For all of her ruthlessness, she wept. There was something more between the two of them. So that's Riker, Baron Strucker, our evil scientist, and she goes off. So here's the cool thing, okay? And again, they say there's no writing in this era. Spartan's able to survey the disaster zone that they kind of fled, disaster zone before blowing it up. But they get back into the hotspot. And he's able, through the evidence in the room, able to reconstruct the final moments before everything went to hell. And then they find out that it's this capsule. Like, everything that she was after, everything that dude was working on, it's in this capsule. And if you guys haven't seen the Wrath of Khan, Star Trek Wrath of Khan, this is the capsule that they put Spock in, that they shot him into Genesis. Grifter messes with it, gets shocked. We get our Jim Lee shot here. But again, I want to say some of these pages look reduced. The detail for this, and you have to consider it's a quarter of a comic page. So it's probably like this big in real life. Not a lot of detail. And we get some... That looks a little... That face looks familiar. Do we have a pin-up in here? Where's our pin-up? Is it the next issue? Where's our pin-up? Hold it up here. Right here. Ah, jeez. We have Travis Sherrist. And we have drawing Spartan. We have Spartan right here. And we have like the Jim Lee version of Spartan's hair. You would get that in the layout. But geez, these eyes, the eyebrows. A lot of this looks like Travis Sherrist to me. Could be how it was inked. That fist is not Jim Lee. I don't know what the division of labor, as the kayfabers would say, is on this. But then we get Warblade goes through hell in these 4 issues. He gets his ass handed to him the entire time. But we kind of have a flashback where Jacob Marlowe... Oh, I'm sorry, not a flashback. But Jacob Marlowe is on an island. Oh, it's not Jacob Marlowe. It's not Jacob Marlowe. I'm sorry. It's just 2 individuals in the Jeep, Jurassic Park style. They come across Warblade. I'm sorry, guys. A little bit of a brain fart there. Because Warblade, like, we don't see, but he after the explosion, he ends up in the river. And then he kind of ends up back. They take him to this, like, Isle of the Dead. I don't know. This is the worst idea in this entire 4-issue series. But then we get this back and forth, where it all began, my love. So this is pretty much like Cyber Force Zero territory. The very place where you tried to kill me. You don't remember. So he tries to kill her, and then, they're in this, like, cemetery, and as that happens, Ripclaw shows up, even if that means Warblade must die. Because, look, Bearclaw, that's Ripclaw here. Thank you. You're here to protect me. Warblade has come back to finish off once and for all. Blah, blah, blah. Because your time of reckoning is at hand. Murderer. I don't know JoJo's super now, but they know each other. But she's clouding Ripclaw's mind. She doesn't have a hold on Warblade anymore. It's almost like the way how some of it works. The rules of this is, if Misery uses her mind control on you, it's almost like you can break it, but it's like, and then you're numb to it, kind of. We start with a flashback. Original Shocks team. Shout out Cyber Force Zero. And yeah, they go off, and we kind of learn that Misery has a thing for Ripclaw. They're not a thing yet, kind of, maybe. And then we have Warblade over here. And they go on the mission. and they get inside of a secret base, and we get some amazing shots here by Mr. So I did want to make this note, and we'll just grab the next issue. Well, not so much. We'll just grab issue 7. So I just want to make the comparison here of the quality of Top Cow at the time versus Wildstorm at the time. The lettering, the kerning, the size of the font, the paper quality, it's all Wildstorm. So Jim Lee comes out, so I would say Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane, of all the Image guys, they came out of the gate with like pro quality, big 2 commendable books, okay? It took Silvestri a couple years to catch up and surpass Jim Lee and Wildstorm Productions. But yeah, we get some good stuff. They're in here. They get attacked by these droids. I love Killjoy. Look at Killjoy. Killjoy's design, the gold and the purple. Cheers to that. Killjoy goes crazy, and we see with this flashback. Oh, it's Richter, the guy from the last issue, but this is the flashback. And what's he working on? Synthetic stuff. And we get some great shots here, okay? Marc Silvestri getting better with his poses, getting better with his, like, in his faciness, in your face-iness. I mean, yeah, we go through some hell. So keep in mind, we're already, like, halfway through issue 2. And if we go back to part 1, keep in mind, part 1 is like really kind of like here. It's the end of part 1. We get like a couple pages. Like this is a couple pages. Because we're still not in Killer Instinct. And then we're halfway through part 2. We only have a handful of like Killer Instinct pages. Because we're wrapping up things from previous issues. And we're establishing more of the backstory. So yeah, so Warblade, again, gets his ass beat again. He gets gutted. Like kind of the same cliff, the same island that they keep going back to. But he gets gutted by Ripclaw, thrown over. Kind of, so now, in this issue, when he shows up here, right? It's like a second time. And then we get this amazing 3-person shot here. Look at this. Look at Ripclaw. Misery looks fantastic. Ripclaw's there. They go at it. So now they're in the modern day. And they fight again. And yeah. It's like they're on the same cliff as before. Listen to me. A setup. She's just using us. She made a deal with Richoff. He's a demonite working on some kind of synthetic life form. Host bodies for the Cabal. You're lying. And these two, they're going at it. And we get some nice silhouettes by. So you guys know I love those silhouettes. And then right before, Warblade gets injured. But right before the death strike, Heatwave comes in. A.K.A. the Cyber Force's Spartan, nukes them, and then sends them off for the cliff now for a 3rd time. I love comics. I love it. Okay. And then we get a little bit of we're being watched. Wildcats are being watched. Let's get into it. Here we go. Part 3. How's this going to wrap up? I'm just way more interested in the payoff at the end. And the payoff at the end, well, I can't wait to get to it. So cheers for all of you guys. Stryker. His name is Morgan Stryker. Born a mutant with 4 arms, he learned early in his youth to accept life's challenges and overcome them. To this end, he developed nurtured his rather unusual trait. One of America's elite soldiers, the best of the best. The best of the best of the best.
Well, he's got multiple arms. But here we go. So this is a little bit of the money. We won Jim Lee. Jim Lee, welcome back to your own title. Because this here is a Jim Lee pose. Jim Lee pose. We have the souls on the bottom. You guys remember? Like, come on, hold up. Give me 1 second, guys. We got some essential here. If you don't own this, you gotta buy it. Do you guys know the shot that's coming up? Where's the shot? Where is it? Right here. The cover. Jim Lee. This is how we know when someone's ghosting another artist. Okay? Look at that. Okay? Welcome back to your own book, Mr. Jim Lee. Welcome back. But this is one of the best Cyber Force shots in human history. We get Scott Williams doing some ink work for the clouds. That double for action lines. Look, we get a little bit of the surface of the earth. Hey, there's no flat earth here. Look at the curvature of the earth. And then, Cyber Force is with Misery. So Misery's able to kind of poison the minds, get inside their heads, tell her side of the story, make herself play the victim, and get on Cyber Force's team. So now she's on Cyber Force. She's like, yeah, I had one of those chips in my head too. I hated it. And then we get, a couple of these criminals that were there to kind of pick up some things previously, but the island's blown up now. And then Warblade just pops up because Warblade does not have a good day. Let me just spoil this. Spoiler alert. This is how Warblade shows up at the end of this issue. Not exactly a Jim Lee pose, but there's some Jim Lee rendering here. I do believe he did have some help on this. The strands of hair like this. Next issue, we wrap this up. And Warblade has not had a good run, but we get this amazing, like I said, the come at you-ness that Jim Lee possesses during this time. I mean, look, Spartan just nukes Stryker. My dermal refractors and thermal dampers are supposed to completely cloak me, but your instincts seem to have gotten the better of my technology. So Stryker has like a warrior's instinct, and the coloring didn't sell this, but he's supposed to be cloaked here, like Predator style, kinda, right? But Stryker knew he was there, so they go back and forth. I love it, and guys, this is Zack Snyder Justice League moment. When Superman catches the Flash slipping, well, he does the same with Velocity here, and he shoots these like webs, whatever. Haven't seen them before, haven't seen them since. He shoots webs, ties her up because he sees her coming. And then he kind of just like almost like hammer throws her into the side of something. Stryker creeps up. Uh-oh. Oh, geez. This does not look like a Jim Lee panel here. Son of a bitch. Jim Lee. What are we doing? Then we get the fight that we want. We want Maul and we want Impact. Impact here. We know this moment was coming. Remember, the bigger Maul gets, the dumber he gets. And we get this. Let's just get back to part 1 real quick. So in part 1, we have this awesome moment where Maul destroys the ship, right? One of my favorite Maul moments ever. But then, like, what happens? Because, see, so he's so big, his brain shuts down, okay? And basically, see, like, he's so big, his brain just, it becomes, this is why Misery doesn't have a effect on him. But Voodoo's able to help shrink him, because she can kind of, like, exercise and calm his mind. Maul's a great gimmick, guys. He's a great gimmick, because the entire team needs to work around Maul's size. But yeah, he gets nuked by Impact. And then he goes, hey, is that your best shot? Look, I'll take a bigger man. It'll take a bigger man than you to beat me. And then he goes, yeah, supersize. And he goes, oh man, me and my big mouth. Again, I like the banter. I like it. We got Jacob Merlot. So Merlot's like sitting on the sidelines during all of this. And it works because he would just be too much. Okay. But he's here and the captions. Thank you, captions. Thank you, captions. Here, I'm going to take my toothbrush of truth and circle the captions for you guys. We just find out that he's worried about his team, but he needs to keep the Halo company going because they need the money to fight the Demonites. So, you know, he's torn. My friends, my comrades are fighting for their lives, and I'm just stuck in the office trying to get my Outlook views to go the right way. Send, receive. Okay, and then we're back at the Halo because this is also smart. They take out Void and they take out Voodoo. They just take him out because Voodoo needs to recover. This is her first like near-death experience. Despite being a stripper, this is her first near-death experience. And toothbrush of truth here. Oh no, this does not look like Jim Lee. And this pose doesn't look like. We're back in our previous issue. But then we get, a shot of, the girls are just, they're not making out. That's the problem. No, they're just being girls. They're just consoling one another. And then we get Weatherman, our boy, our other Nick Fury of the Wildstorm universe. Well, he's watching this Jim Lee panel. And even Weatherman's like, did Jim Lee draw this panel that he's credited for? See Wildstorm 6 and 7. Because during Wildstorm 6 and 7, where everything's happening in the same like place. But no, Weatherman's there, and then we get Cannon, and this is great because they set Cannon up to fail in Stormwatch. Stormwatch has better character payoffs than Wildcats, and that's one of the reasons why I was absolutely addicted to Stormwatch at this time and not Wildcats. But Cannon's like, hey. Can I give you this idea that I have? Gamora, because, now they got to deal with the local government. And, Cannon gives him the idea. He's like, look, we can kind of come out on both sides. We might have to sacrifice this. He lays it all out. And then, no, Cannon, not now. And most likely not ever. And it's really cool because they set Cannon up to be like a loose cannon type character, which is great. Very Guy Gardner back in the day. And guys, if you want to know about that rift between what really happened at Homage Studios, what happened? Guys, look at this preview. Get some Jim Lee artwork, but we got J. Scott Campbell, the future, like, status quo of the industry. Top Cow doesn't have Turner yet. They don't have Finch yet. They really have MARC Silvestri. MARC Silvestri only. They have Travis Charest coming. They got J. Scott Campbell here. You guys follow me? Their books look better. Their letter pages look better. Again, you guys have to develop an eye. What am I talking about? Well, look at the... Can we just wrap this up? Okay, we already wrapped it up. We get more back and forth. Misery, Ripclaw, they go back to the Spock capsule from Wrath of Khan. They open it up. She sees what's inside. She goes, look, soon I'll begin regeneration process and will be together again forever. So she's talking about Richter, the Demon Knight dude that they kind of burned and killed in the previous issue before the island blew up, or the lab on the island blew up. But she's got Bear Claw, Ripclaw possessed, right? He thinks they're in love. Kind of they are. She's in love with this. She just loves everyone. She is a Jean Grey. And then as they're having kind of like this moment, a moment of victory, Warblade's like, look, guys, I'm not going away. I am not going away. So let's just like the Call of the Wild, right? Look at the layout. You guys, okay. There's so many of you out there. There's a lot of you out there. You guys make your own effing books, and you piss me off every time I see them because you don't know design. You just don't. For the early 90s, 93, right? This design, this layout still holds up today. Now, we get some, like, effects, right? Some filters, but not really, okay? But this is kind of what was available. We take out Call of the Wild. We take this layout. Get some of the ghosted images. See, like, the ghosted artwork hanging around in the back on a separate layer. We take all that out, but the freaking layout. The layout here, look at this. The layout is hotness. And I ask a lot of you guys, a lot. Like, do you think your book holds up? Does your book hold up to what is on the shelves today? All of you liars say yes. This is Cyber Force. Force? MARC SILVESTRI, Jim Lee. MARC SILVESTRI, Jim Lee. Oh my God. This pisses me off to like no end. Oh my God. We get some like Jim Lee like sketch work here too. This might be hinting towards something. I don't know. I gotta read the letter column. Got the tour rocking and rolling. You guys ready for part 4? Are you guys ready for part 4? But before we get into part 4, Image's hottest new comic turns up the heat. MARC SILVESTRI's codename Strike Force takes on Jim Lee's Stormwatch. Yeah. So we have these guys. See, Homage isn't done crossing over. We got the B teams showing up in Strike Force. So we're gonna be doing this, and I just wanted to tease something here. Spoiler alert. Here he is. At the end of issue 3, going into issue 4, Weatherman or Nick Fury shows up ready to go. So we're going to be discussing that. The other, I don't want to kind of like show off the issue because I'm trying to be a little, I don't know, it's a little bit of presentation. But the next issue cover for Codename Strike Force is a riff on Stormwatch 1, which is absolutely amazing. And even here too, Brandon Peterson, right? Very talented dude after Jim Lee. Incredible. So, Homage Studios, still friends. I just don't want to get, and the reason why I brought these out, because some people mistaken that for this. This is Force. Cyber, Strike, Opposing. Not the same. We will be doing this too also. Part 4. What the hell happened to part 4, Peter? What are you doing? You lost part 4. Okay, we're here. Part 4 is back. So we get this shot. And we kind of want to say, look, you work together, you got, and R.I.P. Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby just passes at this point. Here's the effing thing. The thing. These guys work so close together. They clearly work close together. They might be allocating some of the resources to their own respective companies or fractions. But let's just say, you know, you're Jim Lee and you're the bigger gun. You got more money. Okay? let's just say you got more money. You're setting up more of a real operation, as evident in that letter column comparison. Not artwork, we're talking production here. And like you go around the studio and you're like, hey everyone, this is my like lead guy. This is my lead guy. And like, you put it up on the wall. It sticks on the wall. And everyone walks by. Maybe you put it next to like the men's room or something. Or the water cooler. Or the dog bowl. And Mark Silvestri walks by and he goes, oh, hey, Jim. Here's my guy. Here's my guy. Your guy? My guy. I just don't believe that this doesn't create friction. I mean, they're right down the hall from one another, right? Their offices could be right next to each other. I mean, if you're Jim Lee, every time you see this guy, you gotta be pissed. You have to be pissed because you're the bigger dog. You should get this guy. You come up with something else, Mark Silvestri. But, we get some blasting, some back and forth. We get some heat wave. Come quickly. Sub basement need help. On my way. And look at that awesome shot. Look at the pink glowing fight of heat wave and Spartan. Absolutely love it. But we're in the basement. Give Mark Silvestri props. We got some continuity with the hair, with the rips, with the tears. And these guys are ready to go. And we see a little bit of Silvestri now. There's an evolution with this issue. His rendering look a lot better. We get Z-Lot and Cyblade. Cyblade, they do a lot of backstory with Cyblade. They're always building up her character. She talks a little bit about her history here. And then here we go. I love this moment. So, Misery's in all of Cyber Force's head. She's in Cyblade's head, and she's in Velocity's head. They will know that you are ready. To be one of the chosen. A brave knight in shining armor. A member of Cyber Force. And Cyblade hands her Z-Lot's sword to basically cut her head off. These 3 panels are so awesome. They're just awesome and they're not complex. It's just a great moment. You must take this sword and prove yourself worthy to those you most admire. Once they see that you have taken the final step. And it doesn't happen. She snaps out of it. But then we get... This is one of the things. For a while we were curious about Warblade. He can spread his arms into knives, right? Edward Scissorhands style. T-1000. But can he do other things? Yes. He does a big stretchy fist. He does a big claw. And then we get our Kamala Khan Plastic Man. This stuff just really doesn't work. I don't care even if Mark Silvestri in his heyday, still not over yet because Mark Silvestri's still going. But Mark Silvestri cannot make any of this look cool. Like, look at the big stretchy arm. And he's got Ripclaw pinned against the wall. Misery's, controlling both of them. So, Warblade's like, he's fighting. He kind of had the upper hand again on Ripclaw. But Misery comes in and she psychic blasts the 2 of them. There. That's better. Good to let it out once in a while. Oh, by the way, thanks for all the help. I couldn't have done it without you. Meaning she's going to take that capsule from Wrath of Khan and skedaddle. But look how tortured Warblade is. Like, dude. Like, oh my god. We have the Heat Wave getting the upper hand on Spartan. So Spartan, and they do reference this in here, where it's hard to trust Spartan. Do we have a... Where is he at? Where is Spartan? I don't know. I'm losing track. But anyway, let's just go back to that. So Spartan here. They do make reference that the members of Wildcats don't fully trust Spartan because he can't die. And they're like, man, like he just puts us in danger. He can't die, but we can. So we see just a lot of Spartan getting completely owned and wrecked. We have Warblade in one last stage effort, spiking Misery. When he spikes Misery, she screams no. Because we have a, probably a hand-drawn font here. This looks like it was done in Sharpie. Come on. Tell me that's not Sharpie. Look at that. Yeah. And Psychic Blast. Like reverse Psychic Blast. But, her spell on Cyber Force is broken. We see... This is great, by the way. Stryker falling on his back. Like 2 of his hands holding his head, but the other 2 arms just blasting away. Awesome shot. But yeah, no, Heat Wave, mid-fall. Velocity, already, falling. Really, just really good stuff here. And then we look at this shot here. Suddenly, a voice calls out, a familiar voice, very faint, as if from the distance, from someone he never expected to hear from again. The babe. And she is spiked herself. And snap, crackle, pop. Holy crap, I'm a robot. I never knew I was a robot. What is happening? It looks like Richter transported her consciousness into another robot form. Which is why she shows up 2 years later. Issue 24. She has a moment with Ripclaw. They kind of confess that they do truly love one another. And then... Here we go. This is the moment. I need it. Where is it? Guys, I'm just looking for my overused Wildcats trade paperback. Okay. We gotta get into the final fight here. Issue 4 is so significant. So, let me see if I can just find it. So, we know, or is it issue 3? Yes. Issue 3, yeah. So issue 3, this Coda Hottie Hot. I always dug girls with short hair too. I don't know why. See, like a Stainer Jim Lee pose there that we saw. But anyway. And she rips off Spartan's arm. So when we get into issue 4, Spartan is kind of like he's a one-armed bandit. Killing Harrison Ford's wife. And let's see here. Right here. Like, I'm just looking for some good shots. See? Right here. He gets his arm ripped off. That technology that Grifter was upset. Oh, whoa. So they were reverse engineering Spartan to harness a infinite army for Demon Knight hosts. That's the payoff, guys. That's the payoff. Could you imagine? Like, you read this, and again, maybe you're at the Killer Instinct tour or some crap, right? Or you get this, like the tour comes to your local neighborhood, you miss it, maybe you show up a month later, and you're like, hey, like that was crazy. I saw all the people outside. This is why some of these things are valuable. And then, you buy this. You buy it for $2. And because the comic shop probably has 30 of them. Because, they probably had an ordering threshold if they wanted, the gold copy. Okay? And you buy this, and then, you kind of go back to the comic shop, and you're like, man, this, what is this? What? And then, someone shows you. They're like, yeah, it happens in here. And next thing you know, you're spending $20-something, and that's continuity. That's continuity. We have again amazing layout here by Silvestri. We have giant maul. I guess we would say regular size Grifter, but then look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 different levels of people. And MARC Silvestri does this better than anyone. But yeah, Kumbaya is kind of like, hey, these guys tried to kill us. Yeah, but we... bygones be bygones. And we get this amazing shot, too, by Maul. Look how small the head is. And that shouldn't work, but it effing does. MARC Silvestri leaps in this issue. He leaps. But then we're done. And we wrap up. And here we go. So, can we get to that tin? So, for years at this point, let's just say for a solid year, a lot of, like, Wizard had a trading card. A lot of what you saw of Cyber Force included Ballistic. And everything from the miniseries, like, to this, she's a shock. She's a bad girl. Cyber Force 0, right? Then we get into Killer Instinct, and no Ballistic, that, you know, she's featured as part of the team. Well, guess what? As soon as Killer Instinct's over, we get into our babe here finally making the prophecy come true. And this was like, I don't want to say it was like one of the hot mysteries of the time, but this people talked about this. So yeah, that's how we wrapped it. Oh my God, people, welcome to Killer Instinct. Welcome to Killer Instinct. So, I just wanted, like, again, Homage Studios. So, Image Comics crossing over with Valiant. Again, the Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee fronts of Image collab with Valiant. Okay? Killer Instinct advertisement. But we get kind of like a full court press crossover here. Some Greg Capullo artwork, but yeah, we get a, like, of the Image books, and look at Scott Clark's page, but of the Image books, Deathmate Black easily overcomes Deathmate Red. Deathmate Red's only commendable pages are the Rob Liefeld pages that book opens with. But we get another giant effort and a collab of Team Silvestri and Team Jim Lee. And then we also get the first appearance of Gen 13 here. And this looks like this is drawn by Wells Portacio here. You can kind of tell just from this page, some of the paneling here, the white negative space. So, kumbaya, they're friends. And, you know, the friendship continues with the Killer Instinct Tour. Killer Instinct Tour 93-94. Homage Studios proudly presents the two buddies. It's the slashing blades of Warblade, the cutting edges of Ripclaw, the cutting edges of Ripclaw hands, a shimmering web of death. Between them, a woman named Misery. Cheers, babe. They should just call her Jeanery. And we get, you know, like, we get very little documentation of the Homage Studio days. MARC Silvestri, Jim Lee here, playing some type of maybe hockey. Production, look, we get some voodoo cosplay. Gene Simmons, Jim Lee and Gene Simmons. And we get these fantastic bios. If you go to akapad.com, you'll see some of these in use. Jim Lee, MARC Silvestri, Scott Williams, who was inking both of them at the time. And look how talented Scott Williams is. Why could this guy not do interior pages? It's beyond me. Brandon Chow, our writer. Great work, buddy. Joe Chayo, colorist, great work. Mike Hazler, Alec Garner, who really became a top-notch inker with J. Scott Campbell, Scott Clark, our hero. He has saved a lot of Jim Lee pages. J. Scott Campbell, Sal Regla, Brett Booth, JD inker, just JD inker with a mullet. The frig. The editors, where people would say these are highly overpaid people. David Wall, again, becomes a major writer for Top Cow. Trevor Scott, inker. He also, he may have done interiors, not 100%. But then we get a nice backup story here. Watch this was Rival, and Rival kind of never came out of this. Weapon Zero, we talked about that font before. Codename Strike Force, but yeah, I mean, this is, look. So you guys have seen this on my channel, the Bob Newhart show. Look, that's Bob Kane, Jack Kirby, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri. Yeah, they were on TV together. Previously, as featured on the AKAPAD YouTube experience, the founding members of Homage Studios, Boss Portasio, some other guy, Jim Lee. Interesting. No, Mark Silvestri, I guess. I've decided to change my name to something something. So, guys, freaking Killer Instinct.
All right. Hi, this is Jim Lee, and you're watching Comics TV.
It's only, just like that gentleman said, it's only 7:05, and there are plenty of people out here already. Hundreds of people. Let's go over and get a few people over here. How long you been waiting out here?
Since 10 to 4.
10 to 4. And who are you here to see?
Jim Lee.
All right.
Obviously.
Approximately 5 minutes to count down. 5 minutes to... Oh, okay. There's Jim. Crowd outside screaming as he arrived. This is the image god that many people have been waiting for. And the team is now complete as they all arrived here. Lining up here. Here comes the first person. He is here. Here they come. And they're going to have a nice... Is it better over here? Why? Oh. But you can't get Jim. That's okay. And this is the beginning of the Killer Instinct tour. The tour has begun.
Everything out of the bags, guys. And there's 2 items. 2 items? 2 items. 2 items. Keep it moving.
Gonna be a long night. Yeah. This guy here. Well, congratulations on being the beginning of the Killer Instinct tour.
been here for like at least 7 hours.
Really?
Yeah, and yeah,
Was it worth it?
yeah, definitely. It was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. This way, you gotta come right out, man.
Hi, this is Mike, and we're in New York City, and we're visiting with Jim Lee, who is beginning his Killer Instinct tour. We're going to be going with Marc Silvestri, right?
Right.
And glad you could take a few minutes here to talk with us.
Oh, no problem.
Just got some, some basic questions, some things that a lot of it's probably been asked before, but
Right.
I don't know if there's anything that hasn't been asked.
I've heard almost every single question you could probably come up with, but go ahead.
I figure.
See if you can shock me here.
Okay, well, we're going to start up with who came up with the crossover, the Killer Instinct?
Basically, Mark and I had been talking as early as last year about doing a project together where the characters Cyber Force and Wildcats interacted. And but we were just doing miniseries at the time. We had scheduling problems, obviously, and we really didn't have an opportunity to do something together until this year when we took both titles into regular series. And we decided, since he was coming back with a new regular series and I was continuing sort of the miniseries, we wanted to do a crossover to kind of give the re-releases some punch. And that's really how it came about.
Well, like you said in Wildcats 5, it's actually like issue 1, but...
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a completely different storyline. I think some time has passed since the miniseries to issue 5, but I just didn't want to start over with another issue 1.
Right.
I feel like there's a certain amount of momentum you lose by starting over again. You want to kind of break the Earth's, sort of gravity and take off and really get rolling with the stories. And if you're continually doing issues 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's difficult to do that. Typically, first issues you have to, first issues follow a certain kind of structure because it's the first issue, and you have to tell the readers about the characters and introduce things in a very logical, sequential way. With an issue 5, you can just go ahead and assume that a lot of the readers
Right.
are familiar with the characters and get into another story that can have a different and more interesting structure than typical first issues. I think first issues are very difficult to plot and draw.
That makes sense. Why were the characters that are involved in the Killer Instinct crossover chosen?
Basically, Mark and I had both created characters with claws, metal claws. Obviously, there's a visual similarity there, and we wanted to make it sort of develop a story which revolved around the fact that the two characters look similar.
Okay.
And we came up with a common past. We came up with a sort of love triangle with this third character called Misery. And we developed a storyline which essentially is, Warblade's origin. And we started dropping hints about the storyline in Cyber Force Zero. And so, it's something that we planned on doing for quite a while. And
Makes sense. Whose idea was it to organize this whole Killer Instinct tour?
basically mine, I think. Last year I was involved in the Deathmate tour, and I did the Midwest leg, and that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that a great deal, going to a lot of small stores. Typically, usually you do a large convention and you get 10,000, 30,000 people there, and that's great to see, so many people and everything. But there are a lot of people in the Midwest and smaller towns along the East Coast, the South, that don't have the means or the time to go to these shows, and it's good for us to get on a bus and go out there as opposed to going to a con and having them come to us. And there's just something very exciting about getting on a bus and going to a different location 3 or 4 times in a day and kind of being on the road. It's sort of a vacation slash, promotion slash work trip, and we'll probably do more of these. I think it's the next thing. I think you're going to see a lot. I mean, Marvel is already doing stuff with their own characters. They're going to stores around the country, and we'll probably be doing another big tour this summer.
Yeah, it's a great way to go to the people. So
Right. Well, we're also able to do a lot of media push and promotions in different cities along the tour. Trying to get some attention to comics to bring new readers into the stores.
Right.
And it's a grassroots way of doing it.
Right. Do you think that Image has lost anything over the past year in maybe not sales?
Delays, we've lost some delays. I
Yeah.
mean, we've cut back on the number of books on
Right.
delay. I mean, sales definitely have come down, but that's true for all of the industries. I mean, the whole comic book industry is in a slump. I think a lot of the speculators are fleeing, which is good because I think there will be a return to the days when people bought comic books that they liked, not because of how much they're going to appreciate in a certain amount of
Right.
time. You know, they'll start picking up books that have good stories, good art, good characters, good storylines, and I welcome that. I mean, the numbers on Image are down, but you're comparing it to a year where they were just, you know, astronomical.
Right.
But we're still in the, you know, pretty much the top 50. Our books,
Mhm.
you know, Spawn's like number 1 or 2, Wildcats is 5 or 6, and then, you know, you have Cyber Force and Shadowhawk and Dragon and Youngblood and Stormwatch, and they're all in there in the 20s and stuff. I mean, we're doing pretty good as a whole. We're trying to be careful and not putting out too many books at once. And as far as delays, we've set some internal policies that prevent us really from sending out late books, and we have a lot of pretty stiff penalties within the organization if you start blowing your deadlines again. So I think that's a thing of the past. You know, I think you know, you're looking at 6 artists that basically left drawing jobs and became publishers, and you know, it's not a thing where you can go immediately from being an artist to a publisher and get it like that.
Right.
You know, we've definitely taken our knocks and we've learned a lot, and you know, I think we have to come through at this point.
Yeah, I think just with, I'm sure you lost sales, like you said, but there's the diehard fans, and once you get, once it's rolling again on
Well,
even keel there.
I think a lot of the people out there want to collect a line of comics that aren't burdened with this heavy baggage of the continuity. They want to see contemporary-looking heroes, and I think that's what Image gives them. I mean, you know, some good, fast, hard-hitting entertainment, and I don't think we'll ever lose that. So I think the long-term prospects of Image are fine, but the numbers coming down, like, you know, like I'm sure you know, has happened on all the books. I mean, the top-selling book now sells 400,000 copies, and we used to sell 400,000 copies on the Uncanny X-Men in 1989. So, you know, the big bubble burst, basically, and we're back to where we were in 89,
Right.
and I think it's just a matter of time before there's a slow upward growth, which is what I think the market needs, as opposed to this incredible escalation of circulation numbers, because all these card guys have come in and trying to make a quick buck off turning these books around.
Right. Yeah, that wasn't good for the industry
No,
at all.
a lot of retailers went out of business.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people out there that got kind of sucked into the whole thing are sitting on boxes of Image books, Valiant books, Marvel books, I mean,
Right.
DC books.
Right. Is the rest of this series completed? The Killer Instinct?
Part 1 just came out this week. Mark's finished Part 2. I finished Part 3. Part 3 will ship January 18th, about 5 or 6 weeks after, you know, issue 6, and that's because of the holidays and whatever.
Okay.
And I hope to release Wildcats on a 5-week schedule. So, yeah, I don't think there'll be any problems with the books coming out.
Has everything about you been said already? We discussed this sort of, but
No, not really. I mean, I think for the most part, most of the interviews, I mean, we're treated fairly well in the press, I think. You know, I think people take shots at Image, take shots at us individually, but you know, it's certainly not, you know, tabloid level, which is great, because I would, you know, be completely repulsed, you know, to the industry if it ever devolved to that, you know. I mean, I like to talk about the work and what went into it, and I think that's probably the important stuff.
right. There was something there I forgot though. What do you like doing better? Do you prefer writing or do you prefer penciling?
I'm not really writer in the classic sense, in that I'd probably be more of what you call like a plotter. I sit around and I come up with ideas for characters, names, visuals. I come up with story arcs, and on a lot of projects like Gen 13 and Kindred, I'll sit down and lay out issues in real rough gesture drawings, and that's really how I kind of tell a story, as opposed to sitting down with a typewriter and writing out all the words, because in the time it takes me to write the character sitting around a kitchen with high vaulted ceilings and broken tiles on the floor and cream cheese on the counter, and I can do a real quick sketch with all that in there, and I express myself in a visual way, I mean, as most artists do, and so it's kind of this quasi-writer artist thing that I'm actually doing.
Go along with that, when you prepare layouts for like Wildcats, do you do just rough sketches, or do you actually do a lot of detail in them?
I start out with rough gestural drawings, nothing too tight, and then I kind of lightly erase all my pencil lines so I sort of see faintly what I had there before, and then I just take a sharp pencil and pencil over it. I try to keep it fairly spontaneous, because I think if you light box it and transfer it and this and that, you lose a lot of the life and the gesture and the animated feel of the characters. And I also have a hard time drawing very small figures and things, and so I tend to work, full size.
So working on the fold-out pages you did on 5.
And that one was a little different because that was too large. I mean, the original is about this big.
Oh, really?
And when you're drawing something that large, you lose perspective of your proportions. So I Xerox each segment down, retape it up, and then shoot that down. And so like the whole fold-out thing became about this big.
Oh, yeah.
And then I looked at that and said, well, the leg's too short or it's too thick or whatever. And then I would make changes on the small Xerox and blow it back up and then light box it. So I lost a little bit of life there, but that was the only way I could really do it and still keep my proportions in balance.
What was the purpose in doing that? Was that just to do something different?
I've had that idea in my head for months, and I just needed an opportunity to do it, and I did it for issue 5, which was the re-release of the book, and I just wanted to give something extra in the book, unpromoted, unannounced, that would literally jump out of the comic book.
Yeah.
And we talked to the printers, and we spent a lot of time developing the technique, and it was a very simple way of doing something unusual, and it allowed me to get some pretty big, effective panels in there.
Yeah, they look great.
Thank you.
Now, do you think the comic books have reached a point where they've reached as many people in America as they're going to? Because I know in other countries they're treated more like literature.
Right. That's a hard thing for me to say. I mean, I think superheroes are really taking off in the mainstream. With X-Men cartoons. You're going to see more superhero cartoons next year. There are a lot of superhero action figures now. They're selling very well. So I think more people are aware, cognizant of superheroes, but not necessarily buying comic books. I think what we're going to need to get comic books out to more people, the mainstream,
Right.
is probably some sort of chain, some sort of, unfortunately for some of the smaller mom and pop stores, someone with a lot of capital to come in and invest heavily in promoting comics on TV, getting comics out there in stores where people normally go just to get other things like videos and magazines, records.
Right. Yeah, that would make sense. Do you feel your art style is tremendously different from the rest of the Image creators? Your brotherhood?
The brotherhood. I think my work tends to overlap more with Rob Liefeld's work or Will Portasio's. I think Todd's kind of got his own thing going. Eric Larson's got his own thing, and so does Jim. It's kind of unusual that Rob, Wilson, and I all worked on the X books together. There are a couple other artists that work for Image on some other projects that do a similar kind of technique, which is a lot of this parallel line hatching you see, which is uplighting on the figures. And I'm actually moving away from that. Like in the next couple issues, I'm probably going to be spotting more blacks where I have gray areas, and do less of the underlighting. Just because I'm getting a little tired of all the cross hatching and stuff, and I want to take the work in a different direction.
Just out of curiosity, when I know in some of yours and some other ones, a lot of times the feet will like just disappear.
When there's when there's like smoke or something like that, or
well, even
when they're standing up with them,
and like maybe in a little background, it's like they almost sort of just fade away.
Like there are no feet. It just goes to ankles.
It's just instead of there's not as much detail in the bottom of it.
Huh.
Never noticed that.
Well, I think. I mean, are you talking about the really itsy bitsy figures? Because when they get really small, I don't draw hands or fingers. You just kind of keep you gotta get the head and then pretty much just their rib cage and their pelvis.
Right.
But as they get a little larger, about this size, yeah, I tend to do smaller feet. I tend to get kind of abstract with it. But it's a stylistic.
Right. I was just curious. Where's it? Pull that one. Oh, something like this. Is that like
shadowed?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Hey, look at that. Yeah, get a close up of this one here.
I was just. I've seen it in a few places.
What that's supposed to be is that there's so much like turbulence or snow in the air that it kind of fades it out, so you can't really see it, and you see that sometimes with smoke. You draw smoke and then things fade out, and the whole idea is that the black shape, the form, is disappearing into the smoke, and it works to different effects. I mean, I can draw the foot there. But it looks. I think it looks more dramatic when you have the smoke, and you have or snow or whatever. It creates a little bit more of a mood on the page.
Okay. Who would you compare your own drawing style to?
My work has been heavily influenced by John Byrne, Mike Mignola, Kevin Nolan, Arthur Adams, Barry Windsor Smith, George Perez. I mean, a lot of the fan favorites of past. I mean, when I collected comics, I collected just for the art, really, and John Byrne was my favorite. And I try to get a lot of John into the gestures, the poses, and the way the characters move and kind of put their arms up, and a little bit of Arthur Adams too. Arthur does this kind of thing, which is real nice. And Mike Mignola in terms of spotting blacks and compositions, George Perez because of the detail, Frank Miller because of the storytelling, Barry Windsor Smith because some of the rendering, Kevin Nolan just beautiful structure, great faces. So really, I think every young artist always starts out by imitating or looking at other artists' work. And out of all the years I was working at Marvel, I kind of came up with the look I'm doing now. But I mean, it changes. I mean, I was looking back on some of the older original artwork I had. Scott Williams pulled it out and was going, look at all this stuff we did on the X-Men. And we're putting more stuff into the artwork now. And the line weights are different. I mean, people tend to think that it's fairly the same, but it changes pretty dramatically, at least to my eye. But I tend to be more critical than I think the average person.
still mainstream too.